Okay, today we're going to be reloading for the 450 Bushmaster, and the load that I'm going to show you how to make has shot 6 deer with 3 different rifles, performs well in anything 450 Bushmaster we've run into. All 6 deer never took a step. I am a firm believer if you hunt with the 450, you have to hand load or know somebody who hand loads. Or you can get by, but you'll spend quite a bit of money and may have to settle on which bullet you're using. I'm gonna tell you real quick about this setup. This is, well, real quick about the caliber. 450 Bushmaster, it was developed by Hornady and Bushmaster back in the late 2000s. The round actually almost died, but some of the state laws, I'm in Ohio, and it allows us to use straight wall cartridges. Southern Michigan, Indiana, others very similar. And so this round is a hunting implement. It really took off. So here we are. And I love the idea of hunting with an AR. It's the rifle I shoot most of throughout the year. I shoot matches with it. I do varmints with it. I plink with it. The gun is second nature to me, which is exactly what I want when I hunt. I can hunt with a bolt action, but I don't shoot a bolt action very often throughout the summer, throughout the rest of the year. But this rifle I do. It's part of my muscle memory, so I enjoy hunting with it. Also known as the modern sporting rifle. So let me tell you a little bit about this one. This upper is, I bought it from Midway. It's a Bushmaster brand 450. It's a 1 in 24 twist, which is quite standard. And that stabilizes the big heavy bullet. I'm going to show us how to reload here in a little bit. And that you can slap that on any AR mil-spec lower. And this is a Rock River that I've been shooting for years. And it has a nice 2-stage trigger in there that I'm used to. And it's a good hunting implement. The rings are nothing special. I think those are Leopold 2-piece. You can get a 1-piece. And the scope, again, nothing special, but it's good. It's a Vortex. I believe it's a Copperhead 3x9. But that's the setup. But what we're going to do is talk about making these, and I'll get a little bit into the components next. All right, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to talk about the evolution of our ammo selection, and then I'll get into the components we're going to use today. So it really all started with this. This is a Hornady Black. It's called Black because it's designed to be shot in optimal way with a black rifle, so modern sporting rifles. And they're pretty good. They shoot pretty good. The bullet is I'm not too familiar with it. It's a arrow tip hollow point. The rub on it, if you go to some sportsman's forum, and I think we read this on the Michigan forum, is the bullet wasn't staying together. And it shoots really good. It shoots really good in the paper. One of my friends, I believe, wounded a deer with this. I'm not sure how the shot was. But bottom line, I felt there were better bullet selections out there. We still keep these. We still use these pretty much to check our zeros and dirty the barrel before hunting season. We don't like to hunt on a clean barrel. Then we moved to this. This is the Barnes TSX 275. Did really good. Shot a few deer. Dropped them all in their tracks. Barnes got away from this, and I don't believe they're making them anymore. So, but what is generally available is the 250 TTSX, and that's a arrow tip that we found flies almost identical to the Hornady, and that's the bullet now right there. They come in boxes of 20. With this one, I was actually watching YouTube last night, and I saw a gentleman shoot a doe with one of these, and it ran about 80 yards in a cornfield before it piled up. So congratulations, he got his deer. But with the barns, we're not seeing that. You know, as long as our marksmanship is good, we're just not seeing that. One thing about the Hornady, it produces some really good brass. We have hand loaded the Hornady black brass, and we've also bought the Starline brass, brand new, and the groups and everything out of either or are identical. So if you have this, if you've shot this, definitely save the brass if you plan to hand load. Getting into some other components, we've settled on Lil Gun, and Lil Gun is it's been out there quite a while. Several use it for shotgun. A lot on the forums I've seen they're using the Hodgkin 110, and I'm sure if we use this and kept messing around, we'd get a good load with this. But right away we found a load with this, with these 250s, that is very well, works very well. Using CCI small rifle primers. These are small rifle primers, small rifle pockets, I should say. These are 400s. No particular reason other than I have a lot of them for reloading for a service rifle. I got a manual over here. Make sure you have a good manual. This one, of course, is specified for the 450 Bushmaster. They have data for the 250 FTX, which is the Hornady bullet, the factory one that I was showing you. And I have data down here that worked for the 275 and what we're using now, the 250 TTSX. So what we're going to settle with is 37.5 grain of Lil Gun. And that was the group that I shot with that. Granted, it was only 50 yards. It was just under 3/4 inch. So if you extrapolate that to 1.5 MOA for hunting, I'll take that. And we still have both 250s and 275s. My other buddies, they opted to convert entirely to the 250s. They were clover leafing for them at 100 yards. And these were a little wider out. You know, again, we're hunting. This isn't a precision rifle, but I'm using these, but I've also used these. But this bullet is the one we're going to primarily because of availability. And it does fly better than the 275, and I think that's just because of the aerodynamic tip. But these bullets tend to stay together. They're a solid piece of copper. They stay together, and like I said, the kinetic energy brings them down pretty quick. The bullet I'm going to show, or the cartridge I'm going to show you how to make, it flies about 2250 feet per second, and the 275 was less than 2000. So when you put that in your kinetic energy calculators, it's quite a pack. So I'm going to show you how to prep these brass, and we're going to load the new Starline, but I'm going to show you how to prep these brass in case you've been shooting the Hornady Black and you want to do some hand loading, and that's what we're going to do next. All right, here we are over at the bench, and I'm going to go over the press setup real quick. This is a Lee turret, classic turret. What I like about it is you can remove these turrets quite easily and change dies and calibers real quick, rather than like a single stage. I remove the stem. I'm gonna just rotate each die manually, but if you leave the stem in there, every time you crank the handle, it'll automatically rotate it. But this is the press we're going to be using today. This is the 3-die Lee set 450 Bushmaster. It has a full-length sizer with a decapper. It also has a bullet seating die and then a factory crimp die for the 450. I also put on here a pour-through powder die with a funnel, and that'll speed things up later, as you'll see. And with these dies, there was a nice manual that came along. So if you don't have a data book, really everything that you need, you can find right here in this die instructions. In fact, it goes down to the bullet that we're using, the 250, with the powder that we're using, and you can see that the max load is 38.5. We're putting 37.5 in there. Those were the best groups, more than enough. And so we're well within the tolerances. And then you can look at your trimming and everything with the casings. So again, these are the Hornady cases. They do fabulous. I pulled them all the way out of the shell holder there because I want to make sure the lube touches all parts of the casing. And I like that Hornady one-shot. I've used the roll pad with the lube, and that works as well. It's just a little messier in my opinion and takes a little more time. But all we're going to do is slide it into the shell holder, and I'm going to pull that through, and there's the first one. So that's going to decap it, obviously. And you can see some marks on the back because we were trying different loads. That'll come off later when we tumble. But I'm going to do all these and full length size them and decap them. And then we're going to check the overall length of the cartridge of the shell and see if we have to trim them. They're all really within tolerances. With straight wall, they do not stretch when you full length size them like the shouldered high-powered rifle rounds do. And we're looking, as it says right here, we're looking for a case trim length of 1.69, but the max is 1.7. So this is one of the longest ones I found, 1.698. And so just to show you, I'm going to trim this, but 95% of your straight walls, after you full length size them, you will not have to trim. So what I have here, this is a Forester trimmer, and the largest collet I have is for a 30 cal, and this is obviously a 45 cal. So we can make it work. If I was going to have to trim a lot of these, then I would definitely want to make sure I had that right. But I'm going to just snug this in, and I have this set for right in the middle there. And I'm going to trim this around until it just took a little bit off, until I heard the metal hit the metal. And so now this one's trimmed, and I'll check the length, and we're at 1.94 and 1.694. So we're good. So I'm going to move on now to the next step, which is to chamfer, deburr, and clean out the primer pockets. This is a Lyman case prep tool, and we're really going to have to do so very little to these. I could do this by hand just as easy. These rotate. Does a nice job cleaning out the pocket, primer pocket. That's really the only two steps 90% of these brass will need. You can see how nice and clean that is. This one back here, that's for military brass to take off the crimps, and obviously we don't need to do that here. The chamfer and the deburr, those are only for the two that I needed to trim, and that's really all it will take right there. So I'm going to go ahead and clean out these primer pockets, and then the other one that needs chamfered and deburred, I'll do that, and they'll look like that. But then we're going to get them ready for the tumbler, and then go from there. At this point, these have been sized, deprimed, trimmed if needed, although not very often, and we've chamfered, deburred them, cleaned out the primer pockets. So now we're ready to tumble them. So I'm going to put some some of this Zilla Desert Blend. It's a crushed walnut. It's a good media. I'm going to add just a few drops, a little bit of Brasso, I should say, about a quarter of a capful, I should say. And we're going to tubble them for a while, and then they should come out looking new. We are ready to load. I have 20 of the Hornady brass. These are once fired. We just hand prepped them. We have 20 of the new Starline brass. So those are new. They didn't require any prep. Have 40 of the Barnes 250 grain TTSX. I have 40 CCI 400 small rifle primers. I have Lil Gun powder, which I put in my dispenser, and that's the Rock Chucker automatic dispenser. Really, you don't need to get that fancy. You can do it by hand. You can get a hand trickler, $25 scale. Put a funnel on top of your rounds, and that'll work as well. But I do like this. It's somewhat automatic. I can type in 37.5, which is what we're doing. I can hit dispense, and generally it's pretty good. This is a flaky powder, Lil Gun is, so it works pretty well. Some of the log-shaped powders, when it's trying to trickle, will spit out boluses. But, you know, looks like we're pretty close here. Okay, we've gone a tenth over for hunting rum. I'm not too worried about that. I'll throw that in. And then what's nice about that, when I put my tray back down, it will automatically start filling it. So I'm going to go ahead and do a couple rounds here so you see exactly what I'm doing, and then we'll go through these. So just to review, here's the setup. I'm going to put the primer in this way, and this little dealio on this lead turret, it'll hold a small rifle primer, and I'll be able to seat that. And then when I do that, I'm going to go straight to my funnel. There's a funnel up here. I'm going to pour the powder in, and then I'm going to place a bullet in and go to my bullet seating die. I'm going to seat the bullet, and then we're going to crimp it. So let's go ahead and get one going here. So first will be the primer. I'm going to go up into the funnel. I'm going to grab the powder and pour that in up here. Put that back on there. You'll hear that start to go. I'm going to come down. I'm going to grab the bullet. I'm going to hand rotate. You might have saw how I did that. I'm just going to hand rotate my turret. I'm going to seat the bullet. I already checked the cartridge overall length. Looks great. I'm going to go ahead and crimp it. And there is the finished cartridge. So we'll go ahead and go through these and see you in a bit. Okay, these are all done. So I actually did 50. A friend of mine showed up and took 20 of them. So here's the here's the other 30. Everything looks good. We are at a cartridge overall length of 2243, so that's good. And we're ready to go. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments. And I'll be hunting southern Ohio this year. Maybe I'll see you in the deer woods.